Hello, welcome. My name is Michael Seelman. I'm the CEO of the Leadership Coach Group, and we're so excited that you're able to join us this month for our webinar on the flow state advantage, how leaders achieve more with less stress, presented by my colleague, Jerry Anathan. And she's really looking forward to being with you and sharing. We were just talking about intent, and she said she's really hoping to leave with you some things you can implement in your life so you can lead with more ease and less stress. And we all hope that you'll be able to get that out of this webinar. One thing we like to do is also to welcome everyone. So in the chat, if you could let us know where you're calling in from, like share your, what city you might be, country, that would be wonderful. We'd love to hear that in the chat, and so we can greet you in a nice and personal way. So feel free to share that in the chat with us. I see we have Russell from Central Wisconsin. So glad to have you with us, Russell. Thank you for joining us. I can say, Michael, I'm from the Washington, D.C. area, kind of just north of the city in Maryland. We have Ruth from middle of Tennessee. We have Carl, who's put together, led this project of our webinar. So Carl's coming in from the Philippines. We have Jonelle. Happy Friday to you. Well, Jonelle's wonderful. I actually know Jonelle, so wonderful to have you with us, Jonelle. Checking in from Fairfax, Virginia. Amaya, also on our team, who's helped recruit people for this webinar from Manila in the Philippines. Gianti, I also know. So Gianti, wonderful to have you on. Thank you for the leadership you've done for your city. We appreciate that. Great to have you on from East Bay, California. And anyone else that would like to share where you're calling in from, we'd love to be able to greet you personally. It's wonderful to have so many people that we know joining us and tuning in. I know I'm looking forward to learning more about the flow state from Jerry. It's something that, she and I were talking about before, and it's something we can do every day, different parts of our day if we'd like to, and she'll be helping us engage that. If anyone else would like to say where they're calling in from, we'd love to hear that. All right, well, let's jump right in and kind of frame for you that this month's webinar is part of a series of webinars that we do. We do a webinar on the first Friday of every month, and we call this series Open Coaching because usually what we do is give one member participating in the audience to be coached directly from our presenter, in this case, Jerry, on the topic that she'll be discussing. So we hope you'll consider being part of that open coaching when we come to that segment. We try to leave you with actionable insights, and we also give you a step-by-step playbook in addition to the live webinar, and we encourage you to use that playbook and share it with anyone that you'd like. And it has different exercises you can use to go more in depth in the material that Jerry will be sharing. And the playbook looks like this and has guided exercises and prompts and different insights. And it's free and easy to use, so we encourage you to download it. You'll get a message right after this webinar with a link to the playbook, and we'll also be posting the recording there. Wanted to mention that in addition to webinars, we also have a variety of different leadership services that we provide. We provide one-on-one coaching, and some of our clients are on. Wonderful to have you on. We also provide team effectiveness support, like whether you might be team coaching or leadership training or motivational speakers. We provide those services as well. And we provide leader assessments, so 360-degree assessments, personality assessments such as DISC and things like that. We provide those services as well. And our coaches are very experienced. We coach people at small companies to large companies, nonprofit, government organizations. What you see up on the screen are some of the global brands that you may recognize where our coaches have coached leaders at these companies such as Microsoft, Dropbox, Sony, Facebook, Webflow, Oracle, you name it. Google, we've coached leaders at those companies. But if you're in an organization that's not one of these, don't worry. We've coached leaders of small companies and nonprofits and government agencies as well. And if we're not coaching you already, we'd love to. Reach out to myself or Maya if we can. As I mentioned, you'll be getting a follow-up email that have a link to a web page. On that web page, you'll have be able to download the playbook. You'll be able to get a copy of Jerry's slide deck. You'll also be able to sign up for one-on-one coaching with Jerry after the webinar. She'll be coaching one person during the webinar, but also have a complimentary coaching session after the webinar. Encourage you to take advantage of that, whether you want to talk with her about implementing flow state in your own life or whatever the topic. Jerry's available. She's one of our great speakers that's available to you, and this is a complimentary coaching session that you can take advantage of. So now, without further ado, I get to introduce Jerry, Jerry Anathan. Her legal name's Geraldine, but she goes by Jerry, and is what we affectionately call her, and her clients are that as well. And she's an executive and peak performance coach with over a decade of experience. She has a master's in psychology from Harvard, my alma mater as well, or I should say one of my alma maters. And she had that focus on organizational behavior. She got that recently, so she's up to date on the latest tools and techniques that she can bring to you in this webinar and also in her coaching. And she's certified in high float state optimization. That's a mouthful that she'll be talking with about the content in this broadcast. Also, she has a lot of training and has taught our coaches in positive intelligence. She's also a certified psychological safety team trainer. That's where she and I first met. And she specializes in bringing science-backed strategies to help people with resilience, engagement, and overall well-being. I also want to thank her. She's on our leadership team and one of the founding members of our company. So Jerry, thank you for your service in that. I remember I told Jerry when I first met her, I saw how insightful and collaborative she was. I was like, I want to do something with that wonderful person in the future. And we got to form this company together. So it's with great excitement that I can introduce my colleague to you, Jerry Anathan. Jerry, take it away.
Michael, thank you so much for the warm welcome. So I'm thrilled to be here to talk about flow state. It is my passion. My coaching is really grounded in the framework of flow. And I've also worked with dozens of athletes who have spent the majority of their careers experiencing those prolonged states of flow. In the short time we have today, I'm going to convey a few concepts from a vast amount of work that I think will help you focus better and feel less stress and burnout. But before we go any further, let's just get grounded. I always like to start any presentation with that. Flow begins with being present. So let's just start with a couple of nice, smooth, deep breaths. So if your feet are crossed or your legs are crossed, let's just plant both feet on the floor for a moment. Let your eyelids get heavy. And just draw in one deep breath, filling up the lungs. And exhale. And one more time, inhaling. This time, hold the breath in at the top. And then just let it all go. And you can allow your eyelids to float open. So even a couple of breaths can calm our nervous systems and help us become more receptive to what's happening around us. Next slide, please. There it is. Okay, so let's start with what flow is not. So flow or flow state, it's not, one of these esoteric terms that came from Burning Man or Woodstock. It's not a motivation or some sort of a mood you can just kind of pop into. As I was saying earlier, I worked with a lot of athletes who have high flow, but this is not just for athletes. The application is for any person at any stage of their life. And so today we're kind of crafting this around leadership or being, an executive person with a lot of responsibility. And now let's go to the next slide. So the research around flow started around 50 years ago with Hungarian psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. That is quite a mouthful, as you can see by his last name. His focus was on optimal experience for any kind of human being. And he studied mountain climbers, musicians, athletes, even bricklayers. And what he found was that high flow, the state of flow, can occur in some of the simplest of activities. It doesn't have to be some monumental achievement. Research also continues today through neuroscience and peak performance research, most notably, I would say, by Stephen Kotler, who founded Flow Research Collective. The book I have on the slide here, called Art of Impossible, is a really great read if you find that flow is something that appeals to you. Next slide, please. So the result is that flow is a repeatable biological state that we can learn to work with. Next slide. So we know what flow isn't. What is flow? In a nutshell, it is calm focus. Again, it's a neurobiological state where your performance feels clear and almost effortless. You're deeply engaged, your self-talk, that inner voice kind of disappears, and you are fully present with whatever it is that you're doing. And so, well, why does this matter? Big deal. It matters a lot for leaders because, as you know, there's a lot of cognitive demand on the mind as we're leading, working, running our families, running our businesses, helping teams be more high performing. Flow improves your decision making, your emotional regulation, and the ability to sort of navigate complexity without burnout. And that's the cool part here, is it's not trying harder. It's actually eliminating that friction and burnout. And to note, flow doesn't just happen on an individual level. It can also happen in teams and groups, because when the goals are super clear, you have really good trust with people, and your communication amongst the team members is strong, you can really enter a shared state of flow that dramatically improves performance, collaboration, etc. Next slide. Thank you. So here's the core idea. Flow is not an accident. The brain naturally moves through a cycle that prepares us for flow, sustains it, and requires recovery afterward. Next slide. So these are just a couple of visual examples. When you compare being in flow versus not being in flow, you can often see the difference immediately. So here we have a speaker, and when he's prepared in the first slide and he's not at all prepared in the second slide. We've got a guy working, looks like he's in flow in the first one, but the other one, you can see he has a mess on the desk, all kinds of distractions, not doing so hot. And next slide. You can also see it in people. So let's say you're seeing other people, you're observing people. You can tell when they're in flow by their posture, their clarity, their energy, and their presence. So it's the same person, just a different brain state. Next slide, please. Let's see, where are we? Okay, so if there's any concept that you take away from this talk, it is the concept of the flow cycle and how to work with it. Flow is a 4-stage cycle. So we're going to go over it really quick. We start with struggle, then release, then flow, then recovery. It does not begin with flow. Flow does not begin with flow. It begins with effort, challenge, friction. So let's briefly go over each stage, and then we'll talk about how to optimize each of those 4 stages. So the first stage, as I mentioned, is struggle. Struggle is where flow begins, even though this stage feels the worst. It does not feel good. It involves high effort cognitive work, a lot of learning, organizing, problem solving, projecting into the future, and often a lot of frustration. Neurochemically, what's happening is we're getting hit with neuroepinephrine and cortisol. So norepinephrine sharpens our focus and alertness, and the cortisol kind of mobilizes your energy, but it doesn't feel good. It feels like friction. In the right dose, though, this is useful because it's telling your brain that what you're doing, what you're trying to accomplish, really matters. The mistake we make is interpreting that discomfort as failure. So we just have to remember, when we're feeling that struggle, that kind of angst before we sit down to do something important, it is not failure, it's preparation. So let's go to the next slide and the next stage. And that next stage is release. And release is actually the most misunderstood and the stage that typically people skip, but we can't skip it, because after that intense effort of the mind with the struggle, the brain needs to shift gears. Release happens just when you step away for just enough to allow the subconscious processing. It's sort of like shaking off the stress. And, oftentimes when we're stressed, we're sitting down trying to accomplish something. We literally have to stand up and shake or walk around, go to the refrigerator. We're distracting ourselves from what we were doing. But if we now realize that that's what we're doing, we're intentionally releasing our struggle so that we can allow the cortisol to drop and the good chemicals like endorphins come in and open those creative pathways. It's as simple as shaking it off, getting up, walking around. But now that we know what's going on, we know this is like a release stage, we can think about it and engage with it. And it's often when those insights will appear unexpectedly, right after that struggle. Now we're in release, boom, getting some insights. For leaders, for executives, release can feel irresponsible, but the truth is your brain will stay locked in effort mode. You won't get into flow unless you have that release stage. So let's move on to the next. So flow state, boom. This is where our peak performance is happening. Time and space seem to vanish. We're completely engaged in the task at hand. What I think is so cool is that neurochemically, your brain is releasing this incredible cocktail of neurons, different types of chemicals. So dopamine for motivation, norepinephrine, which we've talked about, which helps us focus, endorphins, which release, sort of like eliminate pain, and they give a lot more pleasure. Serotonin, that gives you confidence and calm and that feeling of being exactly where you're supposed to be. And last of all, anandamide, and that is the creativity hormone. And it is also associated with, it's the same release you get if you ingest THC. So there you have it. It's your natural way of creating that same thing. At the same time, your prefrontal cortex, that sort of like executive part of your brain, goes completely quiet. The blood flow then is restricted. And the medical term for this is transient hypofrontality. It basically means you're not thinking about thinking. You're not talking to yourself. You're not projecting into the future. You're 100% engaged in what you're doing. And last stage is recovery. When we're in flow, it feels really good, but it's also metabolically draining. So our body and our brain need time to replenish and integrate what we've done. At this point, serotonin and the growth hormone, when we're in this recovery stage, can come in and reset the nervous system. And another really important stage to have. So you can kind of see there's a wave. There's struggle, there's release, there's flow, and then there's recovery. What is not recovery is scrolling on Instagram, watching Netflix, numbing out, doom scrolling. That's not recovery. That is so depleting, and actually can it's like taking 10 steps forward and 30 steps back when you immediately go into that type of activity. What you want to do is something else, like take a shower, do a meditation, NSDR, which is non-sleep deep rest, do some movement like yoga, stretch, shower, dance, go out into nature, something that is stimulating and rewarding and feels grounding. That's what we want to do during those recovery stages. So let's think about, next slide, please, just for a moment, maybe close your eyes or just sit back in your chair. Take a moment to think about a recent time you were in struggle. What were you focusing on? What did it feel like? And then maybe you can even imagine what came next. So if you want to, please feel free to pop into the chat a word or two about what you might have been focusing on. It could be a work thing. It could have been an athletic endeavor or some other pursuit. It could be a hobby. But we no matter how much you love the thing you're doing, there's always that struggle phase. So if you're willing, pop it into the chat. At Leadership Coach Group, we have a lot of tools that will help you sort of structure your flow cycle of these 4 stages. But now what we'll do is talk about a few ways you can optimize. When you leave here today, you're going to have some techniques and tools to apply to each of those 4 stages.
We have Russell who shared helping a parent. Maybe, yeah, I can attest to, helping my mother sometimes can be challenging. She has dementia. It can be challenging. So I don't know if that's the experience Russell's having. Janelle said a finance and staffing issue on a nonprofit board that can be, she felt like struggle. Gianti said received a PRA request that threw me into a tizzy. Thanks for sharing that, Gianti. So what do you have to say to those folks that are, sharing these types of examples, Jerry?
I just think it goes to show the broad array of quote unquote struggle that we have every day in all different aspects of our lives. We're tailoring this to leadership, but it can go into anything that you're doing, any kind of pursuit you have. We can apply the flow cycle principles to it. I'd be happy to work with any of you or anyone that put something in the chat or anyone else toward the end of the session. Any other comments or questions before I move on?
I have one, Jerry. Especially when you showed those pictures, it made me think about, how do you know if you're in a productive struggle that's part of the stages leading to flow versus you're just not being productive? Like, is there a way to tell the difference? You might be doing something that feels hard, but it's not a struggle that's going to lead to flow.
Right. When the struggle goes away, I would say at some point the struggle goes away. So it's a matter of, did you resolve the thing and move on to the next stage, or did you just push it off to the side? And when we push it off to the side, it creates even more struggle because it's not really gone. And so here in these tips and tricks for each of the stages, hopefully we'll be able to bring in the awareness during struggle and say, okay, this is normal. This is hard, but it's normal. And here's how I can get through this and optimize it.
Well, it seems like Russell just shared a comment that might be a good segue. He said, what are some ideas for getting out of a stage if you're just stuck?
Okay, so let's take a look. Next slide, please. So let's look at the struggle phase. So the first thing, when we're in that sense of struggle, we want to define a very clear end game. What is it that you want to, what are we working on? What is it that we need to get out of this? So you want to write it down, writing lists, writing like a mind map, a shape, a drawing, whatever. Get it out of your head, just initially put it onto paper. You want to break that work into very manageable chunks and manageable challenges, and you want to limit the inputs. So for example, if I'm creating a presentation, there are many parts that go into that presentation, right? So I might write out all the different things, make slides, make the speaker's notes, think of all the things, do the research. Who was Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi again? When was he born? There are little research components, and then there are things I want to deliver, things I want to convey. So instead of trying to do that all at once, I need to segment it out so that I can be very clear. When we are ambiguous, it's like you're just lighting off a bunch of cortisol and blocking your progress. And typically that's when we feel really stuck, because we haven't kind of differentiated the mini projects within the master project, if you will. If you have a coach or a therapist that you work with, have them hold you accountable and help you time block, help you time manage. Time blocking is a whole nother conversation. But if you can manage your time through a planner, like Full Focus Planner, for example, I know Russ knows about what that is. It really, really helps you. It literally gets the cortisol out of your system. It's like a magic trick. Like you just do the thing and you'll feel better. You want to, during this struggle phase, set up your upcoming flow block. And by that, I mean clearing your desk space, thinking about optimizing your environment. Maybe you take the time during that struggle to reduce all the other tabs on your desktop computer. You close your mail delivery system, that kind of stuff. This is something you can wrap into your struggle phase to help you prepare for that beautiful time that you're going to go into flow. Next slide, please. So release. If I'm struggling and I'm getting ready to work on something, I'm just going to do like a 5-minute release. Maybe it's 10 minutes, but if it's too long, we're going to detract ourselves from the entire experience. So it's a short, what we call a micro break, a mini break, a micro break. And this would be the great opportunity to set yourself up for success as well, because you want to do something that's not necessarily thinking about what you're working on, but something that's productive, like what is it called? Like it's a productive procrastination. So I like to set a 5-minute timer. I will clean up, I'm looking around my little apartment in New York. I will fold a blanket or make sure there's no dishes or no distractions on my workspace. I'll try to optimize my computer. And if I see like documents that are open, I close them. Conversely, you could go jump in the shower and come right back, but you're setting yourself up for like, I have 5 minutes. I'm going to do something that shakes off all this energy so that you can come back and re-engage. Laundry is a big thing you could do, cleaning, just something that's productive, but feels like it's a distraction from what you're working on. Next slide, please. So now we're in flow, and the only thing, flow is flow. So you're not thinking about any of this other stuff because you're working on the thing that you're working on, your one task. But you want to create and protect that flow block so that there are no interruptions. So we want to do that before, of course. Again, one clear intention for this flow block. And when I say flow block, when it comes to productivity, we're talking 45 minutes to 90 minutes. We're not talking 3 hours or 5 minutes. That's for other time blocked tasks. But these flow blocks, they need boundaries. And let's say you're working from home. You need to tell your spouse and your kids and your pets, no, I'm not, this is my time. It would be like interrupting someone when they're in a meditation, because literally the neurochemicals that you're getting, you're literally in a different state of mind. And anything that interrupts it is just going to detract from the quality of your work and the great feeling that you get from those neurochemicals. And that being said, it should take care of itself if you've prepared properly for it. Next slide, please. Back to what we were talking about with recovery. We want to choose an active recovery, typically movement, reflection, connection, doing 10 to 15 minutes of exercise. This would be, let me rewind. Let's say we have 3 or 4 flow blocks during our day. These are the kind of the more macro breaks that we take. Maybe it's 10 or 15 minutes, maybe it's 20 or 30, maybe it's a whole hour for lunch, whatever it is. But again, no social media, no news, no Netflix, no soap operas, nothing that is like numbing out. We want to engage in something that feels chemically good. And we all know what that is. Healthy eating, exercising, dancing, listening to music. And you can certainly email through Michael, through me. I will be happy to send you a lot of different activities you can choose from that take 10 to 15 minutes that are sort of out of the box. We have a whole, that I've created for Leadership Coach Group, a whole coaching program around flow state. And it comes with worksheets, kind of audits around your technology, around your environment. So, I could talk about this forever. Just to keep it condensed, you want to pick something that feels good, that when you come back to, think about what you're going to do next. Now we're starting over in struggle, right? Okay, now you're moving to that second task. How am I going to approach it? We're starting the whole cycle over again. And we can repeat this through the day, through the month, through the year. Flow cycles can be teeny. They can be 3 minutes. You can do a lot in 3 minutes, but you do go through all those stages. Or it can be these blocks that we're talking about for peak performance work. So I know I spoke fast and quick. It's a lot of information to absorb. I really appreciate your attendance. If you have questions, I know it's a lot, please fire away the questions.
Well, people are thinking of questions in the chat. Jerry, I have a question for you. Like, some of our folks might be in their office space, at an office building. What would qualify, what wouldn't? So if I wanted to do release or recovery, would be looking at email count or not? What kind of things could you do in an office space?
Really great question. I had never heard of this before, but it's called wall gazing. And you gaze at a wall. You take 3 or 4 minutes and you simply gaze at the wall, and it has an effect, sort of a meditative effect, I would assume. I'll be honest with you, I've not done it. But for people who are sort of in those environments where they don't have the opportunity to go do something like that, that's what I would do. If you do have headphones or something where you could put on soothing music or a guided meditation, I love listening to breath work through, there's a company called Othership, and I engage in their cold plunges a few times a week. It's sauna and cold plunge. But they also have a guided breath work app that's fantastic. 5-10 minutes of that, 3 minutes, some of them are 3 minutes. Again, changing our chemistry through oxygenation. It's a hard word to say. And we have to get creative when we're sort of locked into those atmospheres, but we can certainly do it. I know I mentioned how I know some of the people through doing some financial trading, and for the most part, it's one of the most arduous pursuits, because you literally have to be engaged with what's happening in front of you the entire time. So what do people do? We get up, we shake ourselves out, put on music. I always joke that I'm going to take a shower, because when I go take a shower and come out, the market is now better. It's kind of a magic trick. So we just have to do the best we can do. And it's important to kind of share what you're doing with someone else. It can be very isolating if people are working alone at home or are in an atmosphere at work that feels really shut down as far as connection. So even if it's someone on the internet or someone you care about, get into a routine with them where you can share how your day went, how your flow block went, talk about the cycles. The more we bring this into the world of not just inside our heads, but share it out loud, the more we can really process it and make it work for us and for the people in our lives. And one thing I would say, just going back to the struggle and working alone, is to share with others that when they're really, really frustrated or stuck, that means they're on the verge of flow. That is absolutely all it is. It's untangling all the tangles. And yeah, it could take time, but that's what we're there to just get through that and know that it's okay. And know it's a neurochemical stage in your life, and you can quickly move to the next by just being gentle with it.
Thank you, Jerry.
You're welcome.
We should move to the next slide here.
Sure.
So now we want to give you, and I also want to recognize some of our team members are with us. We have Kristen and Sylvia, some of our fellow colleagues in coaching. So thank you so much for joining us. And to be part of Open Coaching, we want you to be ready to engage in a meaningful conversation with Jerry, be able to turn on your camera and microphone, of course, we'd like you to be consent to be recorded, because we're recording this webinar and we'd like to share what you do in Open Coaching with other people that might be watching this in the future. And we'd like you to be on a desktop computer or a laptop computer. It doesn't really work if you're on a phone to engage in the open coaching. So if you're ready to volunteer, we'd like you to just put in "I volunteer" in the chat, or you can use the controls here to raise your hand through that button on the webinar dashboard here. But you could just put in the chat, say "I volunteer." We'd love to have someone join us. I know some people talked about how they were struggling with some things in their workplace and in their home life. We'd love you to have the opportunity to be coached by Jerry live here. So if anyone's ready to volunteer, please just put "I volunteer" in the chat. We'll be taking a look for that. I have another question for you, Jerry, while people are considering volunteering is, someone's asking, when will the open coaching? If you volunteer now, then we'll bring you up so you can be on video conference in camera and talk with Jerry. We'd love you to volunteer, Jerry, Russell, if that's good for you. But Jerry, the question is could it be in something that feels hard to do that doesn't lead to flow? And maybe how do you know if what feels like a struggle is on the right path to flow? I could see how I might be frustrated and not feeling focused, but it might not lead to flow.
I think if the level of cortisol and norepinephrine exceed that fine balance, that fine line, then there's something wrong. It's unaligned with what you are trying to accomplish. So there are some things we literally just have to say, there's something wrong with this. I can't do it. It's not for me. It might be out of our knowledge range. It might be something that is against our values. So something is going on if the struggle is that big, because that's just a recipe for disaster. That's stress and friction to the point of getting ill.
Thank you. I know if Russell, if you'd like to volunteer, we'd love to have you provide the opportunity for you to talk with Jerry in the open coaching section. That would be now if you're able to volunteer. Just put "I volunteer" in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We'd love to have a volunteer. Anyone? Come on, be brave. Love to have volunteer. Jay, I'll volunteer. So if you mentioned having lots of tabs open on your computer, that could be distracting. I see Carl and Maya laughing because they know I do that a lot. So would you recommend I have less tabs, or for me, it's like I can jump into lots of different software I might have to do my job, but maybe is it necessarily distracting me? I do clean off my desk, and I do try to have not those kinds of distractions in front of me. But even right now, I have a lot of tabs open on my computer. I mentioned mentioned that.
Do you find yourself attracted to the tabs and wanting to poke around at them?
Oh, it just helps me not have to log into this software, that software, get extra passwords, or do multi-factor authentication, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I would say you're probably okay then, and certainly everyone has different levels of shiny objects going by and wanting to jump on them. I think having it, I'm speaking from my own experience. If like I said, I love to watch the stock market. So if I have my stock screen on, there's no way I'm not going to look at it. So if I'm doing something else like a coaching call or this webinar, for example, as much as it pains me, I'm not looking at the stock market, because if I had the screen open, I would want to look at it. So it's really about what are those things you go to that aren't necessarily, that are not going to help you at all with the task at hand. And I think instant messages, your email, we're trying to get a dopamine hit outside of what we're doing when we're going to get those other, we're sort of, I call it fishing. It's like you're throwing the reel out, trying to get some sort of feeling. And that's why we constantly check our email, check our messages, whatever it may be that we're interested in. Instagram, Facebook, those types of things, doom scrolling. So anything that would tempt you to look at it when you're in a flow block, you got to just not do it. When do we get to do those things? Yes. So we didn't talk about it in the flow cycle, but give yourself, 5 minutes every few hours or 10 minutes every few hours. Of course, check your email and respond to it. There's no, there are theories like you shouldn't check your email except for twice a day and that kind of thing. I don't really know that that's even possible. So did Gianti,
She had a question. I'm inviting her to come on camera, and maybe you can talk with her. Gianti, if that's great, you could talk directly with Jerry and ask her your question or get some coaching from her that could be helpful to you.
so I see the sentence in the, or the question in the chat, but I'm not clear what it means exactly. How do you separate your emotional responses while you're getting ready to work on a difficult project? You need to let your emotional responses be what they are. That you don't want to hold back your emotional response. Who was the tennis player that just smashed her racket and she got in so much trouble for it? Like, good for her for smashing her racket. She needed to smash her racket. That's all. It's okay. If you want to cry or you want to yell or you want to, whatever it is, of course, within control, you have to express your emotions or they will stay stuck and make you ill. Is that what you meant?
Gianti is on with us, so I'm going to go off camera so you can focus on talking with her. Thank you so much, Gianti.
Hi, Gianti. Thank you.
Hi. I'm sorry. I actually missed what, I was going through all the legal acceptances. But I was just curious, sometimes when you have a project and you're getting sort of ready to work on it, but all you're like, like they talk of your monkey brain or whatever, all the emotional side of it that can come into play. How do you sort of separate that or calm it down?
That is absolutely struggle, right? That's when you're just feeling things through your body. You can't quite sit still. Deep breathing. And again, I don't know if you heard the beginning, but like if you take all the things that are in your head running around and you write them down, you're literally taking them out of your brain and putting them on paper. Sure, they're still in your brain, but you've kind of passed them into a different stage, if you will, so that they're not literally weighing heavily on you and setting off all those negative chemical responses. Whatever the emotion is, maybe ask what's under that emotion. Is it fear? Is it perfectionism? Is it you don't have time? And if I know that happens for me a lot of the time, if I'm working on too many things and I say to myself, I don't have time for this, like there's too many things, write the thing that just the task that it takes, how long it will take to do it, and kind of, again, time block it in with other things that are of similar time. So I think we've all had that feeling where you have to call to get your car registered and you have to take your kid to the vet or you talk to the vet or make a plane reservation, all these little things that kind of eat away at you. You can do those all in one little time block. And it feels, again, it's part of struggle. Those irritations you want to do, they're not part of a flow block, but because it's separate from that. Those small little tasks, you just do them when you do them. You put them in a block. The flow block is the project or the big thing that you want to work on during that time with a clear outcome. So the more we can decipher and differentiate between the things we want to accomplish, how long they'll take, and what's really important, the more we can feel that we can approach what is in front of us without feeling those negative emotions. I don't know, did that help at all?
Yeah. No, thank you. Then I think especially just trying to recognize what's behind the emotion is probably a big part of it, at least for me, I think. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Janti, is there any specific situation that you'd like to work through with Jerry?
Well, I actually mentioned the PRA requests, and that's actually something I recently got, and I felt they were very targeted, very personal. And so that kind of, PRA requests are pretty standard in government, but when you get something that feels very personal, it's like, oh my goodness, obviously I have to work on it, but you just begin to, you're sort of distracted by, why are they asking this? What's the reason? As opposed to just saying, okay, I just need to get this done and, work at it. So it's sort of, yeah. Anyway, it was an interesting case for me, interesting thing. Yeah.
Sometimes when it's one of those tasks, like an application or a response that you have to give and it's really detailed and you just want to get it done, I try to pair it with something else, because you're not going into a deep flow block here. You're just doing something that you have to do. So maybe that's the time you listen to your favorite podcast or listen to music, because this is not part of a flow block. It's part of an obligation that you have that's not really a priority for you necessarily, but it's an obligation.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. Thank you.
And Russ, thank you. And Russ was also saying, and this may apply to you, Gianti, he uses something that lets him set a time increment for taking a break. And that sounds like the Pomodoro technique, where you work for 20 minutes or 40 minutes, and then you have a 5-minute break. And that's absolutely excellent. Like that 20 or 40 minutes can be your flow block. Now, it doesn't have to be 45 to 90 minutes. There's a lot of science around that 20 to 30 minute work block. And then taking a 5-minute break. And I love doing that. It broke, but I had one of those hourglasses that I would turn over, and it was a 30-minute hourglass. I love that. It feels so cozy, and it sets up an atmosphere for productivity, and that there's an end to it, which I think is important for all of us to know that we get a break, especially with our limited attention spans these days.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Of course.
Thank you so much, Jerry. Thank you, Janti. Really appreciate you doing that. And now we want to kind of wrap up the webinar and let you know about some opportunities that are coming in the future. So we're going to have, after this webinar, there's going to be a follow-up email that I'll be able to show you how to get the playbook that goes along with the Jerry talked about. So there'll be techniques and tips to help you with that. There'll also be a link to the same webpage. We'll have the slide deck and be an opportunity to sign up with coaching for Jerry. And then by the end of the day, Monday, we'll also have this recording. At least that's our goal, to have a copy of this recording in case you want to see it or share it with a friend. The recording should also be on that same web page that you'll be linked to with the follow-up email. And this is what the flow state playbook looks like. We encourage you to go on there and do those guided exercise and reflection prompts, and give you insights on help you to be a more effective leader. Again, it's just free and easy to use, so I encourage you to take advantage of that resource. And we welcome your feedback. We encourage our clients as leaders to solicit feedback from their stakeholders and our stakeholders. So you can use this code here, scan with your phone, and it'll pull up our survey to give us feedback. And also there'll be a link in the email afterwards. And generally we meet right after the webinar, and we take a look at the feedback we received, kind of do an after action review. So if you do your feedback right away, then we'll be looking at your feedback so we can incorporate it into future webinars. Appreciate you giving us that feedback. So our next webinar coming up is going to be about body language. It's on how to read other people's body language, how to use your own body language to project the type of maybe confidence or control or openness. We're going to be focusing on that. on our next webinar in March. We hope you join us for that. And of course, always, we're here for you. You can reach out to us by our telephone number there. You can reach us by email. I have both my email and Maya's there. And through our website, leadershipcoachgroup.com. We're here to help you any way we can. Please reach out, and we'd love to know what we can do for you. With that, I want to thank Jerry for presenting. I want to thank Jayanti for participating with us and for doing the open coaching. Thank you very much for that. And for all of you for joining us, for Carl and Maya for helping making this possible. Thank you very much, and we hope to see you again in the future. Take care.